I don't even understand how it got to this point. I don't know how we're
No
here.
idea. No idea.
It's so I could probably manage this team better, and I'm a fucking idiot.
Ciao, paisans. Welcome back. Part 2 coming in real hot here. Not going to comment too much in live time about what just transpired over this past weekend. We are now a week later, but the schedule is still intact, and we're ready to go through what was the bottom of the table just a week ago. And so with that, I'm here with my co-host Vos once again, and we are ready to tackle the bottom half of this table with some shakers and some movers, might I add.
Yeah, we're going to just continue as if nothing has happened. So we're going to go bottom half. If you guys were with us last week, if you haven't, go ahead and listen. But we ended on who was in 10th place, I guess, before this weekend on Cremonese. We're going to go from 11th to the rest of the table there.
And
But it was a good weekend.
I guess what we'll add, it was a good weekend. We will add for those paisans that, for whatever reason, have not chimed into part 1. This is part 2 of our State of the Union here. We are going through the bottom half of the table. We did 1 through 10 last week. Bottom half of the table here, we are deciding whether teams are ahead of schedule, on schedule, or behind schedule, and what we thought their expectations prior to the season were. So without further ado, we are in a very interesting spot with our 11th team from the standings last week, and that is Atalanta. It is interesting to have the outlook that we do have after this last weekend. But Vos, where did you think and where do you still think Atalanta sit in their schedule?
Yeah, I'm looking at this. I think we haven't really. I mean, it's only been one match week, but it seems like so much has changed.
It has only been one match week.
But we both have them behind schedule. And I mean, the reasons that we had them here, there's a lot of overlap. We can kind of talk about them briefly, but there's other bigger news to talk about with Atalanta. For me, kind of like what I was saying under Juric, they're playing like a bad version of Roma, like getting a lot of draws, not really scoring a ton of goals, nothing really looking great. And then the icing on the cake was Juric getting into it with Lookman, and just nothing was getting better. Like it was very stagnant, kind of with what we've seen with Juric. Like nothing gets better no matter how long he's there. And with the players they have, it was really an unacceptable situation. And it just got to the point where they needed to move on. And they went with Palladino, which I like. And I think we can focus the conversation more on that because I don't think anybody can say they're on schedule. Like it had to be behind schedule. What is done is done. We've talked about it over the last 10 weeks, 11 weeks. And now it's kind of, okay, where do we go from here? But I'll stop there to get your quick thoughts, and then we can kind of talk about this Palladino situation.
No, I think that management of Atalanta finally saw that they were certainly behind schedule with 7 draws leading up into this past weekend's game. And for an Atalanta team with the amount of talent that they have, a 3-0 loss was just the straw that broke the camel's back. Juric was not it. That's now 2 failed experiments for Juric in Serie A in the last 2 seasons, being fired coincidentally on November 10th in both situations. But Atalanta do go out and take advantage of a name that's on the market that really shouldn't have been in the market at this point in the season in Palladino, who, as everyone knows, was the manager of a very successful Fiorentina team last year. And I think that this hiring makes a ton of sense. This team is a little bit, I would say, a little similar, a little bit more well put together than the Fiorentina team last year, but certainly still a little bit of a hodgepodge, I would say, especially in that back line. I don't think that these guys mesh entirely that well together, but they certainly have gotten it done, propped up by Carnesecchi in the way that he's been playing, in my opinion, but also in the same token, very similar to the front line that Fiorentina had last year, and immense firepower from the front 3 here at Atalanta, but front 2 last year at Fiorentina, and very, very, very skilled wingbacks. And so I think that this appointment in Palladino is going to be picking up right where he left off at Fiorentina. And to say that this Atalanta team still isn't on the hunt for a European spot, I would say is incorrect. As you said, what's done is done, but what they've done is put themselves behind schedule, and they have a lot of ground to make up.
Yeah, I mean, to get back, they are, what are they, 9 points behind? Yeah, they're 9 points off of a Champions League spot right now. So a lot of work to be done there, and that's going to be a big uphill battle. But and I do like the Palladino appointment. I think part of what went into waiting on Juric was if this was the guy they really wanted, he was waiting for the Juve job anyway. So I think they were kind of in a weird place where they couldn't really get rid of Juric and get Palladino until Juve ended up hiring Spalletti. I don't think Spalletti would have been the right appointment for Atalanta, even if that was a possibility. So I think they may have been pushed there. What I'm worried about with them, and I think it's a very small chance that they get Champions League football this year. That is a lot of ground to make up, and there's a lot of work to be done to get this team to the point where they're being very competitive. What I'm kind of seeing this as, and I think Palladino is going to be signifying this, that appointment, club in transition. When Gasparini left, we said it was a club in transition, and we thought the Juric appointment was a little bit weird. We didn't really like the direction that was going. And if it had been Palladino, I would have said, okay, this is great. But at the same time, Palladino is not an appointment to win right now. This is a project that he's going to be a part of. He's going to have to build this team. And kind of the way that I'm looking at it is, who is going to want to be around for this? I mean, come January, come the summer, Lookman should leave at this point. I mean, he had issues with Gasparini. He had issues with Juric. He is a problem. He's wanting to leave. He's going to leave. Guys like Ederson, who have already been linked away, excuse me. Are these guys going to want to go again with somebody else at Atalanta when it's clear that Palladino has never been a guy, he's never had the opportunity really, right, to go win something. So you can't say he's gonna get you there 100%. So that's why I feel like they're in transition. I think it could go well, but I think the bigger story is what is the knock-on effect from this, especially if they don't make the Champions League. You're just not going to keep those guys. And that's kind of what I'm at with Palladino. I think he's going to do exceptionally well. I think it might take some time, and he's probably going to stick with the back three. I think there's really good bones to this team, but again, it's who are they going to be able to keep? Yeah, and I hope they're looking at this this year. Doesn't matter all that much. Yes, you have to have success and you have to be competitive, but you got to give Palladino time now to get his system in place, figure out these guys, and know that he's kind of at a disadvantage already in this season.
No, I really didn't think about that in terms of this appointment, and I think it's true. I do think that there's going to be a lot of departures here, if not in the January window, then certainly at the end of the season, because while Gasparini had done some pretty astounding things with this Atalanta team over the years, their run in the Champions League to the semifinals seems like it was eons ago. And for Atalanta, it had just been a constant project, then doing well, project, then doing well. But when they're doing well, it's really just a surprise to the upside. And it wasn't that not that they had the structure in place to really fight for either a Scudetto or a really deep run in European football. Again, they won the Europa League, but a surprise to the upside. They came in third last year in the league, but again, a surprise to the upside with Retegui leading the league in goals. And so for a lot of these guys that have been here for a very long time, most namely Ederson, they just have more and more reason to get out of here. One thing I will kind of disagree with you on is that they do need to get back into European football.
I just don't know if it's going to happen.
Hopefully Europa, but I only say that in terms of a book consideration because
for sure.
They need the inflow. I mean, this roster's not cheap, and the level that they want to continue to have is not cheap. So they certainly need to get back to, I would say, at least sixth year, which unfortunately for them, this is not the year. Not the year to be fighting from the outside in. You look at, who's in that 5, 6, 7 spot, and we're talking Napoli, who's in 4 now, Bologna at 5, Juve at 6 with Spalletti now at the helm, and Como at 7. So I would not want to be Atalanta going into this portion of the season, although I do think that Palladino is excited for the opportunity. I do think that he's picked his spot well, although he wanted Juve. I don't think that this is really that big of a drop-off considering where Juve is today.
Yeah, I think honestly for where he's at, this is a better job than Juve because we've seen Juve managers who haven't done terribly get the axe. And at Atalanta, I would be surprised if he's doing okay and they're like, okay, we're going to try somebody else now, especially given what's happened this year. I think the other thing that's really going to work in his favor is kind of what you alluded to with Carnesecchi. First of all, the base of this team, and I would be shocked if he doesn't stick to a back three. And he did play this at Fiorentina at times. Ahanor, why do I keep saying his name's Honest? Oh, it is Honest. I always get it mixed up. Honest Ahanor, Kian, and then kind of whoever you want to throw off the right, depending on who's Kasunu, Jim City, Scalvini. Great base. Great base for a team, and you can kind of figure everything else on the front of that. I think the other thing is that he got so much out of Moise Kean, who's not to say he can't do that with Scamacca or Krstovic or a combination of the two. And then the last thing on that, he has an affinity for wide players, and that's why he brought Colpani to Fiorentina. Obviously it didn't really work out. He had injuries, couldn't really get into the team, and then just the makeup of the team could never get in. And you have a guy like Solomana who came over with Juric. He's probably shitting in his pants because oh my God, Juric is gone. What are we going to do? And I think Palladino can make that player work regardless of the system. And we'll try to figure out a place for him. So I'm really interested. I'm interested in what he's going to do because again, going back to last year, and I talked about this when he was possibly a Juve appointment, he's doesn't have a system that he's 100% committed to. And this squad, you can go a lot of different ways with. And you can do a 4-3-3, you can do a 3-5-2, you can do a 3-4-3. And I think we're probably going to see all of it at some point. I'd be surprised if he doesn't start with like the 3-5-2 because that's what's worked there. But this is one we're going to see. Behind schedule, probably going to be behind schedule the rest of the year, but an extremely exciting project to witness to or bear witness to over the next 6 months or so.
100%. And you pointed to Suleimanu, who's had a great start this season, a surprise coming from Southampton following Juric, as you said. But what do you make of Lookman's form here? How do you think he fits into Palladino's quote unquote non-system of a system? And do you think that this is a January exit?
It should be a January exit. That's
I think that makes the most sense for him.
yeah. After the Juric thing where he got into it, it's just like okay, he is partially the problem. Like it happened with Gasperini. It's now happened with Juric. Like clearly he is part of somewhat of a problem. And then he's tried to leave and tried to leave and tried to leave. And like we can wait and make this go on, but I just think you're better off for Palladino. Like you're going to lose this guy in the summer, no matter what. So why even integrate him at this point? Like why use him in your team for 1 month when you can start with somebody else and start building this project that it's supposed to be over the next 2 years and like get that problem out of the locker room. I just think that makes the most sense. I think there's a lot of teams that could use him, to be honest, and there's going to be a market for him, whether it be in Italy, outside of Italy. Like people want Lookman. He's been great all year. He hasn't really lit up the stat sheet, but he's been very good. And it's just time. Like at this point, it's better for everybody for him to leave.
And I also think that back to my book conversation, the fee that they're going to get out of him still will be pretty high, for my
Yeah,
opinion,
I mean,
35, 40 million. And
more than
that
that, I
certainly
think.
helps.
I mean, Inter offered what 55 million in the summer, and they wanted like 60, and wouldn't
The
bite.
problem is that they know for sure that he's not part of this anymore, and I don't think Atalanta have any more time to waste on having him just rot away. So I do think even 35, 40 for him, I would take in the January window
Yeah,
again.
you
That's
got to
it's a
get him
bit
out.
of
You just
it's a
got to
bit
get
of
him
a
out.
different market than the summer. But with
Yeah,
that being said, that's Atalanta. A lot to be seen here. I think now in a similar position to Lazio, where we don't know what to make of this team. But that does bring us to the squad that punished Atalanta, brought Juric out to pasture over the weekend. That is Sassuolo, who at the time last week was in 12th. They've moved top 10 since, but that does not change how I feel about this team. Vos, where do you think Sassuolo sit here?
yeah. This one might be a surprise. I have them on schedule. I still have them on schedule. I thought before the season they were going to be great. I still think they're great. I think they play the best ball out of any of the newly promoted team, and they probably play the best ball out of like the quote unquote like if you could just listed like the best teams in the league, the bottom 10. Like they play great football. They're really dangerous, and it's not really a surprise that they're playing this well. This squad is a Serie A squad. It should have never been in Serie B, and now they're here. They're doing what they did when they were in Serie A before, killing off the Titans out of nowhere, and it's great. I love everything that's going on. There is no reason for them not to finish top 10. And I mean, to the point where they're ahead of schedule, like I would say if they finished eighth where they are now or up, that is ahead of schedule. But other than that, like they should be 9, 10, 11, 100%.
100% agreed. We talked about this Sassuolo team at length coming into the season because of what you just noted, especially the fact that the quality of this roster resembled a Serie A squad, even though they had been in one season down in Serie B. But the front line of this team, it continues to
Fucking
show that they are
nasty.
absolutely potent, absolutely potent. Domenico Berardi has knows this league in and out and has been doing it since before time existed. Pinamonti had his time last year. He's now in this squad. He's doing exceptionally well and looks like a baby Scamacca from years past. And Loriente, who almost left for the Prem, is still showing that he has a tremendous amount of value add to this team. And then they also have a couple of subs behind them. My concern still sits with the defense, but even with that, scoring 3 goals against Atalanta shows that they can outscore their opponent no matter what is going on. And I agree with you. I'm on schedule now. If they continue to be in eighth, if they continue to be top 10, that's certainly ahead of schedule from me. But certainly no surprises from me on the Sassuolo side. And the only thing that would surprise me going forward is if they're not buyers in this winter window. I certainly think that they have
No
just a couple
way.
of pieces to add possibly in 6-month dry loans, maybe some cheap buys off the bottom of the half of the table. But the Sassuolo team should be adding. just to strengthen where they end up in this table to build on for next year because they're
I don't know
certainly
if
going to be in
I don't
Serie
think
A then.
they need to really add anybody. I think they're in good shape. I think you just get through the year, see where you finish, and then kind of like go from there. Like they're having guys pop up now that put like Federa now is like in the Loriente position to give him some rest, and he's been phenomenal. He started the last 2 games. It's been so good there. And we really haven't even seen like Walid Shadira, who was great. I think it was in the Europa League or Conference League a year ago. Who was like the Pinamonti backup. And then you have Pinamonti flying. I just think when you're on 1 game a week, everybody's playing well, everybody's like relatively fit. Like the way the style of football they played, like you're not really killing anybody game to game in terms of your fitness. And I think that the defense has actually gotten a lot better over the course of the year. They have 3 solid defenders now, and I think this is going to be a difficult team to beat. And I think they're going to have a lot of guys that are commanding some high price tags come the summertime. I mean, I keep talking about Kone. Like, I would do everything to get that guy on my team if I'm any club in Serie A. He's so fucking good. And if you haven't
If
watched
you had a
Sass,
squad,
you have to watch him. Yeah. I mean, true. Any of the squads, I would take him. He can do everything. And I don't know. This team is so good, dude. They're so good. They're at the point, they're like another one of those teams. Like, I don't want to bet against them now.
no.
They're good everywhere around the field. And Pinamonti is like doing what I thought he was. Like, he's good. He's a good player. Like they just like decided they're gonna keep him, and nobody like made a run at him. It's just insane. Like he's been around, and nobody like took a run. Oh, let's get Pinamonti. Like I'm sure Milan could use him. He probably started for Milan if he was there.
I think we tried to go after him and it just never came to fruition. But I'm almost certain that Berardi's in his ear saying, "Stay, we got a chance.
Yeah,
We can
for
do something
sure.
special here, man. We can do something special. Stay for the next 40 years with me. We're never leaving." Because I don't think Berardi's ever going to leave now. At
No,
this
he's
point,
definitely not. It's too late
he's
now.
stuck in green and black. But that's all there's to say about Sass. I mean, they're a great team. Be careful. Do not take a Colby leg that's betting against Sassuolo. That's really the name. That's what the lesson we learned here today. But now in 13th, we have the other side of Turin. We have Torino and what their schedule has brought thus far in this season. A very, very rocky start for this squad, but they've certainly shown that they can rebound, they can get better. And for me, still slightly behind schedule. I think that they've got a roster that says that they can be better and they certainly played better last year. But I really only think this is a week or two behind from being what we thought this Torino team could be and will be. That front line of Shea Adams and Gio Simeone has shown that they can put away goals, whether they should have been goals or not. That's not for me to say. Gio has scored some absolute worldies out of nowhere, which he's done before. He's had a run of form like that before
With Baroni.
with
Too.
Baroni. But this midfield is strong. They've got some great names in there. Certainly Cassadai. Even with losing Ricci, I don't think that this midfield has taken that
No.
much off the table. And they continue to be a stout side that is tough to break down. And we saw this past weekend against Juventus as a 0-0 draw in the derby. And so this Torino team at 13th, I don't think that that's too far off from where we thought they could be, maybe 11th or 12th, and then they're right
Yeah.
back on schedule.
Yeah, I mean they haven't lost a game in the last 5, which kind of goes to that like Baroni is starting to figure it out. And he did a lot of different things at the beginning of the season. But they were losing some big games big, and they've kind of stopped losing. And now they've gotten a base in every game where they're going to compete, they're going to be in every game, not concede a lot of goals anymore. I think what's kind of holding them back in a way is the selection that Baroni's doing. Like I'm not a Nikola Vlasic guy, and he's
No.
kind of partially because he's the captain. He's just like a staple of this team that's always in the game. I think Cyril Ngog still has to take some big steps. I think Aslani needs to take some big steps. Illich has just kind of started to phase out. So
old.
there's things with this team that I love. There's things in this team that I don't love. But
I also hate, I have to say, I hate their goalie. It's one of the worst goalies. Israel is one of the worst goalies I've ever witnessed in my entire life. So that is something, they have an uphill battle every time they take the pitch with that guy between the pipes.
yeah, I mean, but they're on schedule. Like they weren't really. Their window did not set them up to do better than they did last year, is how I would put it.
No.
And that's kind of what they're going to be expected to do this year. Like with what they did, if they had done, I mean, I did a whole thing. I texted you guys about this. All the players, I think that they could have gotten a loan or done something, gotten a little creative, given Baroni more of like a war chest to play with to go and try to do something and not just be that 10th place team. But that's where they're going to be. And they have good talent. And Baroni's a great coach, but they're just not going to be good enough to compete past this. And I think and 13. They come in 13 here on our like ranking, whatever it was last week, and that's slightly behind schedule, but things are going towards that like number 10 spot.
100%. And they have, for me, more upside than downside from here.
I would
In
agree
terms
with
of
that.
what
I would
they
agree
can
with that.
prove. I'm not sure that they end up too much higher in the table per se, but they certainly can surprise to the upside. A lot of young talent here, and I think that they can really take advantage of getting better over the course of a couple games, not rushing back into this. They're certainly not playing for any European spots, and if you're not playing for European spots, then what is the difference between ninth and 12th when you're just trying to improve and trying to develop players here? So I think there's a lot of upside to this Torino team that could set them up well for next year, not necessarily
Yeah,
for
I
this
think
year.
that's a good way of looking at it too, because they don't really have a guy that's like a Ricci from last year. I don't
No.
see anybody on this team going for big money in the summer. Like there's good players here, but I think this team is going to be pretty complete or similar going into next season, like barring any crazy runs of form from players.
Yeah, no, I agree. That that is an interesting segue here, though, to the team in 14th, where I do think there are going to be some hefty price tags on some exits from these guys going into next summer. And being as it is, you are our Cagliari expert. If you guys have not tuned in to
Substack, yeah.
our Substack, Vos has been authoring some unbelievable pieces out there, a couple of game previews, a little bit of a team deep dive, especially here in Cagliari. So I will give it over to our expert in house to talk about the team from the island.
Yeah, I'm surprised that you're going to agree with me on this one, but Cagliari is in 14th place right now. I have them on schedule. I think this team is really good. I think they can push beyond this. That's why I have them on schedule. I think they fully can compete for that like 10-9 spot. And Fabio Piscicane has done a phenomenal job. He's the new manager this year and in trying to play a little bit more expensive football, going away from what Davide Nicola was doing at Cagliari, although at Cremonese now he's busting out offensive football for some reason. But what I love about him and what I love about this team especially is he isn't like overthinking things and he's just putting players in positions to succeed. I think the best example of that is Michael Fiorentina, and he's kind of used him as a Swiss Army knife at times, whether it be as a midfield, like a center mid, or as like a forward or number 10. He's played wing back at points this year. So getting a lot of out of him, playing Matteo Prati, a academy product in the midfield. He's kind of like playing at the base and then getting a lot of out of a Michael Adopo. I think where this team can go a little bit farther is getting some more out of Sebastiano Esposito,
Mhm.
he's on loan from Inter. He's the brother of Pio Esposito, and they basically decided they're going to keep one of them in terms at Inter this year. He's a really good player, needs to get more out of him. He has one goal, but this team has a lot more to do, I think, this year and can do more. But that's why I have them on schedule because I think the team has a ton of quality. I don't think they're going to be in relegation at come the end of the season. At the beginning of the year, I didn't think they had any business being there. So that's why I've got them right on schedule here, kind of in that next group, but not quite breaking into that chase for number 10, I'll call it. If they were closer to that, I would say ahead of schedule. But right now, this is where I would expect them to finish, and I think they should finish here, but I think they can push on. And to your point about big price tags, there's a ton of guys here. I mean, talking about Caprile and Net, he's been exceptional. He's basically linked to everywhere that needs a goalie, Milan being the big one with the
Certainly Milan.
possibility of Mignon going out. Marco Palestra is the new breakout wingback, although I believe he's on loan and they don't actually own him. But there's a lot of good guys here. I think even Folaranchu, people could be buying him come the summer. He's been exceptional.
Yeah, I mean, just to quickly touch on Folaranchu, I think the only reason he's on a team like Cagliari at this point is because he just couldn't find playing time. Teams on the top half of the table. Not that he can't play for them, but he just wasn't getting the playing time. And this was certainly a move that he
Yeah,
needed to make.
I think what's kind of crazy about the Fiorentina one now is how Piscicane has used him as a center mid. You now look at Napoli, where he came from. You're about to lose Anguissa to AFCON, almost like a perfect guy to like come in and play, and they don't have him anymore, obviously because he's on Cagliari. But this he's been giving the chances now, and he's taking the most of it. And last year he was at Fiorentina, never really had a place in the team. Like same thing with Napoli, and now like you're seeing what he could be, and I think he definitely deserves a shout on the national team.
Certainly, and I won't belabor the point here. I certainly agree with you. I think they're on schedule. Two main points that I'll make. Number one, similar to Sassuolo, Cagliari proves to never be a gimme game. They have lost a good amount, 5 out of the 11. So that's why they are in 14th and still in 14th after this past weekend. But they're never a gimme game. Incredibly hard team to play, especially when you go to the island. And again, my expectation was that they were going to be a top half or the bottom half of the table.
Yeah,
So that's gonna be your
that's a good
that's
way
gonna
of
be your
putting it.
11 to
Yeah.
15, and they're squarely in at 14. And I think that they do have some upside here on schedule. On to the next one. Who do we got next?
We have Lecce next. So they are currently in 15th place, 3 points clear of relegation.
Can I just say one thing about Lecce here?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I hate talking about Lecce.
Yeah, I do too.
They
I
have
don't like
no redeeming
Lecce. Yeah.
qualities. They stink. Their kits stink. They stink. Their players stink. And I don't know how they're not in a relegation spot. They should have gotten relegated last year. They're potentially and probably going to get relegated this year. But that for me is on schedule. Lecce stinks. They are what we thought they were. They stink. They will stink. They have stunk. And they, for whatever reason, have been in some games that they had no business being in. A 1-0 loss to Napoli, a 2-2 draw to Bologna out of nowhere. This team was expected to be bad. This team is bad, and I don't see anything that they're building on. So right on schedule for Lecce.
Yeah, I mean 3 points off relegation, like they're gonna be there come end of year, and I think like we said, that's why they're on schedule. Like this is where we expected them to be. I mean, behind schedule for this team would be in relegation, I guess, like actually in the relegation zone.
Anybody in relegation, you have to be behind schedule.
Yeah, yeah. But I would agree with you. Like every team apart from maybe Pisa, I have something to say about them that like I like, or there's something they're doing creative that I like. I don't like anything on this team. I don't have a lot of good things to say about any of the players on this team, whether that be their fault or not their fault. The coaching isn't getting the most out of them. I think if you look at Camarda, that's the clear best example of that. Like that's a guy you brought in to kind of be like your guy to go and get it done. You're not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
They're on schedule because they're not in relegation, but like I still have nothing to say about them. I don't like them. I don't like watching them. That's it. I want them to go down. This is a team I want to go down. I love all the teams except for Lecce.
I would be very happy to see Lecce go down. It's been that way for a season and a half now, and that will continue. One team that I would love to have stay up, and I think has a place in Serie A for a long time coming, should be in Serie A for a long time coming, just has not figured it out this season, is in 16th as of last week, and that's Parma.
17th now, too.
17th now. This Parma team is behind schedule. This Parma team is simply behind schedule. I will say that I understand and fully agree that they lost a ton of talent. They got picked apart over the summer window. You lose Leone to Liverpool. You lose Boni to Inter. Dennis Mann is out to Eredivisie. Mihaila is also gone. So let me be the first one to say that I am sorry, Parma, that you have had such big losses. But let me also tell you that there are a couple players here that are still some very good building pieces that you should be playing. You should be playing better. I'm not going to say that 16th, 17th is a reflection of the way that they have played or could be playing. And I'm not going to talk about the game that they played this past weekend. We're not going to touch on that. I'm not here to talk about it. But you look at Bernabé, who has now been a very solid piece in that midfield last season, moving into this season now, very much almost a starlet. Only, I think, 24 years old. Very good player in the midfield. Pellegrino up top has been linked away to several big teams, including Milan.
Really good. I want to talk about
Don't look at the stats, though. Don't look at the stats.
He's
you won't know it from the stats.
Really good. He's very good. He's like Retegui level good, I think.
You think he moves to a new team next season? He wins the
definitely.
Capitanieri?
He's definitely gone come the summertime. He is a player to watch for a while. He's going to be very good in this league. He is a problem.
That is Pellegrino. And again, I mean, couple of building blocks here. Zion Suzuki has been dog shit this season.
Bad.
Was way better last season. So I don't know what the deal is there. This guy has a ton of talent.
He also just got injured and is going to be out, I think, at least a month, which, in my opinion, actually serves him well. I think he needs a rest and take a step back and realize he's been bad. And he's been bad. Like he has cost them.
He's been really bad.
Yeah.
He's been really bad, and he needs to go away. Honestly, a month-long retreat to the monks in Nepal wouldn't do him so badly. A lot of self-reflection because he's been really bad. But again, this Parma team should be in a better spot than they are now. Remind me their coach these days, Vos.
Carlos Cuesta, yeah.
That's part of the problem too. What is he, 29?
Yeah, that was
29 years old at the helm of a Serie A club. That can't be it. That's not the guy that's going to propel this team to be the best that they can. Maybe his talent identification is insanely good, and it probably is. I can't say for sure because Parma's budget is incredibly tiny, so I'm not gonna say that they went out and bought a ton of guys. But from a leadership perspective, from a managerial perspective, a 29-year-old in a league that is at the level that Serie A has become over the past couple of seasons is not gonna get you there.
I would agree with you. I mean, I think this team is very good, and what is holding them back is Carlos Cuesta in a way. Whether that's still fault, I just don't think that was the right appointment for this team. And yeah, they had a lot of losses over the summer, but replaceable, right? Like this team, when you look at pure roster, I would say they're maybe the top of like the bottom half of the table. Like they're very good and have very good players. I think part of the issue is that Cuesta has been insistent on playing Patrick Catrone with Pellegrino, which I don't really love, and I think that's holding them back a little bit. The other injury that I will point to is they got him in the summer from Venezia and Orisitano, who was supposed to be like another creative force. He got hurt at the beginning of the year when he had started very well. But despite that, I think this team has enough dangerous guys and has some good defenders even still. Like regardless of Leone leaving, Prato, Cercati, and Ndiaye. Ndiaye is very, very good and is going to another one that's going to be gone in the summer. But that is a solid back three that you've been working with. I think the midfield's actually been pretty good, especially with Bernabe there.
Bernabe's awesome.
Mandela
Awesome.
Keita has been playing as kind of like the bottom at the six this year, and I think he's been good there. Their just game management is not really great. The way they set up, I don't think has been great. I think it's getting better, but they're behind schedule. Like this team is good enough to be firmly out of the relegation race, and they should get there despite what they lost in the summer.
Yeah, and one thing I will say that I just came back to mind is, and the reason that this Cuesta is not the guy is that one of the big issues that Parma had last season is that they would shoot themselves in the foot
Yeah.
time and time and time again, and they are still shooting themselves in the foot time and time again. They need to figure out a way to be more consistent mentally and technically, but that's really the one thing that I think is not propelling them to the top of the bottom half of this conversation here. And so remains to be seen if the players can take it upon themselves to turn that around, or if it's going to continue to be a flop of a season with what could have been this Parma team. But that does bring us to another squad in middle of Italy, Tuscany, the Tower, the Leaning Tower, Pisa, brand new season in Serie A. A little bit of a surprise. Their manager leaves them at the beginning of the season. Terrible, terrible start for Pisa in Serie A. I had them on schedule, and as of last week, they did not have any wins. They have a win over this past weekend. They're still on schedule. They're
Yeah,
still
they got to
only
be
in
on
the bottom
schedule.
half of the table. And this team has not, aside from one player, I would say, there's no redeeming factors to this team either. They have one player better for me than Lecce, and I hate Lecce. But this is
Yeah, I
on
mean,
schedule for me.
yeah, nobody's really jumped off the screen at me for this team, but yeah, I think on schedule. I mean, they don't have the worst record in terms of like total losses, so like they're getting those points, and that's a big when you go back to like Davide and Nicola, what
Mhm.
kept Cagliari up a bunch of years, getting draws and getting draws and getting draws and not losing games, and they've done that exceptionally well. At this point, they're in 16th place, 2 points clear of the bottom of the relegation zone. So I think that's on schedule. I would say like this team is not great, but they work hard. They set up in a good defensive shell. They're in every game. They have scored some goals and like they've had chances to win games. So they're right on schedule for me. Like if you're in relegation zone, that's behind schedule. But I mean, yeah, that's it. Like I don't again like Lecce. I don't have a lot of good things to say. I actually have more confidence in this team to stay up than I do Lecce at this point in time, just because of
True.
the way they play. It's very structured, but they could easily be there come the end of the season. As of right now, they're getting it done. Like they are just getting it done, and that's all you need to do at the end of the
Barely.
day.
By the
Yeah.
skin of their teeth, they're getting it done. But Paisans, if you do end up having to watch Pisa, one guy I will highlight that I alluded to before, Enzola. He's a great striker. I think that he'll get bought up by a team in the middle tier of this table come next year. I believe he's Italian too. Is he Italian?
No, he's not.
Where's Enzola from?
Angola.
Somebody get his passport. I need to check where he's
Angola, he's
from.
from.
So not Italian,
No, not
but
at all.
maybe could be Italian. I don't know how long he's been in Italy, but a
The other
very
guy
good player,
actually,
big body, big
yeah,
body.
he's good. The other guy that I have liked is they've used Abasher. They got him from Bologna. I think he's been
Mhm.
really good. They've used him in field. I think he's another one that's been good. I kind of like sort of ignore it because he's like an older guy. He's been around. Yeah, those are the two guys I would say. Better than Lecce. They got none.
Keep on keeping on, Pisa, all right? Let's see if we can end up above Lecce come the end of the season. But that does now bring us to the relegation zone, which has not changed since last week. In two teams that at the beginning of the season, I had zero intention of having them here, but managers get fired, results are not what you want, and this is where we end up. So at 18th, we have Genoa, and we didn't touch on this last week, but it had already been announced with Patrick Vieira, the legendary Patrick Vieira, who was at the helm of Genoa, is no longer in charge. They do bring in another legend. Daniele De Rossi is back. He's back in Serie A. What I would say is a sour end to his time at Roma, but now taking on a very,
Yeah,
in my
for sure.
opinion,
Sour.
a very weak project here in Genoa. Again, in 18th and certainly behind schedule.
Yeah, if you're in relegation zone, you're behind schedule. For me, I had them finishing in like 15 or 16, so I'm not all that surprised they're down here. I don't think they're great by any means, but yeah, you got to be behind schedule if you're in the relegation zone. But what I think what we're seeing here, and with Patrick Vieira, with the fire, like things will change from here. We'll talk about that in a second. But I think the way we have to look at last year was a little bit of overachieving. And I think that comparing them to what they did last year is a little bit unfair. And when you look at who departed, I mean, the major departures, Pinamonti, who's your number 9, Moretti, who was exceptional last year and basically
Exceptional.
was kept on Juve this year because of how good he was for Genoa.
Even though he's absolutely rotting away
He's been hurt.
and
Just
hurt.
got back. And then Coney de Winter, who was your best defender. So you lose like a guy from your forward line, a guy from your midfield / forward line, and then your best defender. Like you're kind of set up for failure. So I don't think it's necessarily fair to compare what they did last year to this year. And that's why I'm not surprised that they're here, but they're still behind schedule because they're in that relegation zone. But there are some exciting players here, I would still say.
That's what I want to say is, maybe I was duped by how well Vieira had this team rocking and rolling last year and how
Definitely.
high they ended up in the table. I had more belief in this team certainly coming into this season, but even with the 3 players that you say or that have gone, which I'm not going to discount by any means, you look down this roster and there are some players. There are some ballers here. I mean, I'll just go right down the line. Lorenzo Colombo, who has been on and off,
No,
but is
no, no,
certainly
no, no, no. Do not call him a baller. That is a downgrade from Pinamonti
hold on.
by an
I said
insane
some
amount.
ballers. I'm not gonna say Lorenzo
Okay, so
Colombo is the baller, but he's
don't lead with
all right. Well, he
Colombo.
was at the top. He's just at the top of the list. I didn't really order this in skill level fashion, but apologies for those that I offended.
Oh,
But in any case, Lorenzo Colombo has been in this league and has scored goals for quite some time.
I'm not going to
Ostegard
agree with that. Ostegard is good. Yep, there's your
Ostegard is
first one.
very good.
Ostegard's
Very
good.
good
Yeah, I
center
agree with
back.
that.
Very good center back. I'm going to say Maxwell Cornet. You're going to tell me I'm an absolute stunad, but Cornet has
He
played.
has 75 minutes this year. Throw that one
They
out the
have
window
they
as
gotta
well.
they gotta
Oh
release
my god.
that guy. He's had some talented years back in the
No,
Prem.
you want to know who the real guys on this team that are good? I think Ostegard was right.
Ekator,
Ekator's been good. I agree. When he's played, he's been good. But the guys that
your
I would
boy
say
Ruslan.
most important players on this team, most important player on this team, period, I think is Morten Frendrup. I think he's been very good. Like going back to last year, he was good. And then he's been great this year. He's now linked.
And Thorsby. Him and Thorsby,
I think
nasty.
I think he's linked to Napoli now as a potential replacement for Zombo during AFCON, which would be really interesting. And then the other one is Brooke Norton-Cuffy has been fucking amazing on this team all year.
Player.
He's linked to other bigger clubs now too. So I think like when you talk about in terms of where they're at and why they're behind schedule, when we talk about like a Lecce or a Pisa, they don't have anything to point to say like we should be ahead of this because we have XYZ. Genoa have that. They have a bunch of guys here that are good enough to get you out of the relegation zone. You necessarily shouldn't be there, which is how I want to get into the De Rossi topic now, because what you had written down was this. What you want to continue talking about Colombo?
No, I would love to talk about Cornet again. No, let's talk about De Rossi because I think that this I just wholeheartedly disagree with.
You think it was a bad appointment or a bad decision for him to take the job, or both?
Both. He's a bad fit here. I don't think that this is the project that De Rossi needs to be taking on at this point. Seems rushed. It seems like he was bored. He wanted to just take on something. He wanted to get back into the league in some way. De Rossi's never operated this side of the table except for the day that he left Roma. And so I don't know that he has any experience operating from the bottom part of the table and getting out of a relegation zone. I don't think that he's ever operated on a team that has this amount or this lack of talent. I would say, I mean, again, we just went through a bunch of really good players, but let's not get crazy here and say that this team even remotely resembles a Roma team that he was ever a part of. So I don't know. I don't trust that De Rossi knows what he's going to be able to do here, and he's definitely not starting on the front foot. So for me, this is going to be a bad experiment.
I like it. I actually do. I completely disagree. I think it makes sense from all parties. Like for Genoa, I'm not sure if you had like your pick of the litter who the guy would be. I think for De Rossi, your point about him rushing back into the league, I think that's legitimate. And I think part of that comes from he's not going to get appointed to any club come the summer. Like if you have a full, like he hasn't done enough, right? To be like, this is our guy. So I think he was rushed to get back into league to be like, hey, I'm still here. I can still make things happen. And I actually think some of the stuff he did at Roma is going to translate well. I can't sit here and say that he was a bad coach at Roma. I mean, you guys at the beginning of the year last year were like, they definitely should keep him. There was still argument that he should have been kept at Roma when he got fired from Roma. So I think there's a good coach in him. And maybe this is the right project to try it at. And I think by any means, he wasn't ready for a Roma type job. Like looking back on it, even though people are like, he shouldn't have been fired, this, that, the other thing, he wasn't the best coach for that job and wasn't ready to take on a team of that size very clearly. So I think this is a logical next step. I think he's going to steady the ship. I think he's going to be able to man manage maybe more than Vieira did in this league. I think he's going to be similar to Vieira in a lot of ways, but he has that like Italian kind of aspect to him, which I think is going to benefit him. And I think he's going to turn this one around. I think they're going to get out of the relegation zone and they're going to be okay. I think they're going to struggle to score goals, and it's going to be more a matter of how do we get draws because there's not really goals in this team. That's the issue.
I don't know, man. I really don't know. I don't think that this is going to work out well for anybody if they do stay up and De Rossi's still the manager at the end of the season. I don't think it'll be because Genoa was all that good. I think it's because there's a couple of teams ahead of them that will be very, very, very bad.
I think that's part of
So,
it, yes, because I don't think they're great, and that's why I ranked them low coming into the year.
but in any case, you're in the relegation zone. You are behind schedule, which means that Verona at 19th is certainly behind schedule. I think Zanetti needs to go. I think this is time. I think this has been a failed experiment from a past player. Again, the talent. Again, we go back to what do these teams have? When you come to the bottom of the table, you have to look at what can you grasp at, and you end up grasping at straws. But from me, this Verona team has a couple of really good players and a couple of promising players, and two of them that I'll specifically speak on are Giovanni, who's now linked away to some of the top clubs in the league here, and Gift Orban, who has been, I'm not going to say efficient in scoring goals, but certainly is hungry for them and wants to score. And they have zero direction. They have zero direction up front, and that's obviously coming from Zanetti himself. And for this team to have any resemblance of a squad that should not be relegated, he needs to go.
Yeah, I mean, I said this at the end of last year and at the beginning of the year. I don't think he did nearly enough to say he deserved this job, and I think this year it's really showing that he has no plan. That's my bigger problem with Zanetti as a whole. Verona is not a great team, period. I don't think they were ever going to compete for like top 10. They were always going to be in the relegation zone. My problem with them is they don't have a plan in any game what you watch. Like sometimes they go guns blazing and they try to get a win against like a Juventus, against a Fiorentina, like whoever it may be. They'll go for it. And then other games, they'll kind of like rein it in. And when they have the lead, there's no plan on how you keep the lead. When you're down a goal, there's no plan on like, okay, this is how we're going to go get a goal. And like, there's no flow. There's no nothing about this team that I can say that I like.
No.
And I think a lot of that goes back to the coaching. Because when you talk about a guy like Davide Nicola, had a plan every game. Like we keep talking about him this year because he is like the relegation specialist, basically, to avoid it. And that's the direction they need to go. And I think your shout on Gift Orban and Giovanni is legitimate. And those guys need to contribute, I think, more. Like they're creating a lot of opportunities, not really putting them away. But I think part of that is also on the coaching staff to like get them in those positions. And I think one more guy that they're behind schedule. If anybody didn't realize that on my end, they're definitely behind schedule. The other guy that I think deserves a ton of credit is Serdar, who's their like talisman midfielder. I think he's been very good this year, has kind of won midfield battles on his own to a large degree. So those are like the three players that I think, those three guys basically, I think are good enough to like kind of get you through a lot of these games. And Zanetti is not helping them do that. It's more just pure ability, not anything tactical. So they're behind schedule. Zanetti has absolutely got to go.
Has to go. And let me just clarify that when I say Giovanni and Gift Orban are good and that they do have skill, these guys are both, I think, 18 and 20 years old. And so if for anybody in this league, they
20 and
definitely need the
23. 20 and 23.
All right, so they're 20 and 23. shoot me, sue me. Um, but these guys definitely need direction. This is their first season in Serie A, and I think that they certainly need a guy at the helm that's going to tell
Yeah.
them what needs to happen.
What's interesting, I think, just like I don't want to go too much into these guys, but I think they're all very good. I think Giovanni's the one I would see going
Well, he's
for.
much more polished. It's not even close.
I think what's interesting about him is they're using him as a 9. I could see him going into wide areas, playing as a winger if you wanted him to. So I think you can do a lot with him. And that's a guy that I think is going to be gone in summer. I could see Gift Orban staying. He does a lot of like inefficient movement and inefficient kind of things. I would call it is the way I would think about it. I think Giovanni is much more technically gifted, 1v1 specialist, and just a little bit more efficient. I don't know. I do like him a lot.
Again, like I said, I think he's just much more polished than Gift Orban.
Yeah.
Orban has a lot of raw talent, but he's a lot of chaotic talent, and Giovanni seems to be a lot more composed, not only in his movement on the ball, but
so
also just situationally.
this jogged my memory of another reason why I hate Zanetti. Giovanni is so good at getting the ball and progressing the ball into like the final third, and he does it. If you watch a Verona game, he does it all the fucking time. But then what happens is nobody is there to support him ever. Like literally ever. Like this entire team, the way that they are set up to win games is Giovanni and Gift Orban just randomly making runs and like trying to do stuff on their own.
That's it.
Yeah, that's literally
that's been their losing formula,
that's
which
their
is
tactic.
unfortunate.
Yeah.
Terrible. But there is one team that has been worse than them all this season, and it's La Viola. It is Fiorentina
Oh God.
in 20th. And then when we're talking schedules and we're talking Fiorentina, are they on schedule, behind schedule? This team is operating in 25 AD. Jesus Christ is still walking around. This team is so far behind schedule that there are talks that they may never recover here. I'm not one of those guys, but they're certainly behind schedule. We have seen our last and final firing with legendary Scudetto winning Stefano Pioli finally out, and one of our favorite managers coming in Vanoli. Vanoli is now the manager of Fiorentina, of last place, 20th place Fiorentina, currently very, 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 very behind schedule. Do they ever recover, Vos?
I don't know how I would define recover at this point. That's the thing.
A great
Like,
question, too.
I don't know what the objective is here apart from not getting relegated, which there's no way they get relegated. The team is too good.
Very
like it's not gonna happen. This team is this is one of the best rosters in Italy. The fact that they're here is embarrassing. I think I want to talk about this in a couple different phases. Let's start with Pioli. This has to be the last time Pioli has a job in Italy. I think that like this is literally was so bad that he is done forever, and everybody kind of poo-pooed us, me and you, for saying like Pioli is not it. Like he won a Scudetto, but like he is not it. And we said it coming into the season. I had Fiorentina finishing like 9th or 10th or something like that because of Pioli. So like that is something that needs to be written in stone. Pioli is not coaching in Serie A again. Has to be.
Well, you can't write it on paper because it wasn't invented back in 25 AD.
Yeah, sure. Good point. Moving on to the Vanoli aspect of this. I love Vanoli. When he got fired from Torino, I was up in arms. I didn't think he made any fucking sense. This is the guy that I said as soon as he got fired, Verona should hire him. I think I tweeted about this. I said, fire Zanetti, hire Vanoli, boom, done. Doesn't make any sense to not do it. I don't know why he got fired from Torino last year. Like when we look at what Baroni's doing, he's basically doing the same thing. Vanoli created Ricci. He was getting the most out of all these players at Torino. He is going to get this right at Fiorentina. This is one of those managers I have so much confidence in to be a Serie A manager forever. I don't say that a lot about a lot of guys. Even I love Palladino. I have more confidence in Vanoli to not fuck up a situation. I don't know why. I just think the way that he wants to play, which is like a 3-5-2, is a very
structured, sound.
Very structured. He was an Antonio Conte assistant coach before he was his own guy. So he knows winning and knows what winning is. He sets his teams up for success. I don't know the personnel he's necessarily going to go with, and I'm going to throw this weekend away because he basically got hired, had 2 days, and then had to manage a team. He has 2 weeks now, international break going on, to figure out how he wants to get his guys in the team. Because again, this team is really good and is way better than Torino, and he did a great job at Torino last year. So this is going to work. I see him being there for a very long time and being extremely successful. I might be like in my own bias in my head, clearly based off of how I'm talking about him, But
Well,
I
certainly.
love this guy. I'm happy this happened. He's a former Fiorentina player. The thing that I'm most happy about is I get to watch him coach again. I watched so much Torino last year, loving him. Everybody should tune in to watch Fiorentina under him. He's good. He's a very good manager.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not as no one is hotter than you on this guy, so I can't say that I'm as hot as you, but I definitely love this appointment. On a very unserious note, in his picture that they posted when he got hired, this guy just looks like a Fiorentina coach. He looks the part. A nice younger guy, but he's an intellectual. He's a calculated man.
You know what he looks
And
like? What people should be calling him is Italian Jurgen Klopp with the glasses. I
he
want to make
does he
that a thing.
does look
Yeah,
like
that's what it
Klopp.
is. We need
He
to get that
does.
going.
That's actually so we gotta we'll have to post that. But no, he is a very calculated man. He is very intellectual, and I think that he's gonna put. There's a lot of thought that can go into this roster, and he's got a lot of different ways that he can go about it.
Yes.
Now, I think that the defense here has been absolutely horrendous. Their back three has been easily their worst part of this team through the beginning of the season.
It's all been bad. It
It's all been
really
bad, but this back three has been horrid. I think Pongracic may never play again after the season, after some of the performances he's put out there. But Vanoli can right the ship with that very quickly. Again, a 3-5-2, but a very structured and defensively sound core 3-5-2. So if anything, he's going to fix that first. I also like to think of that if he created Ricci and he's got Beans, he's got Fajoli at his disposal, then why not
and Hans
again?
Nicolucci, yeah, he's got
I
the
mean,
guys here.
he's got resemblance of a couple of players that he has certainly brought through that Torino system. And I think the point that no one is really thinking about, nor do they know, is that he did come up under Conte. And Conte, as we have seen, is an absolutely legendary manager with a ton of success. So why can't Vinoli do the same if that's the basis and the backbone of his managerialship that he's coming up with? It goes without being said. It only goes up from here. They can't go any lower, this Fiorentina team. But you made a good point of what really defines righting the ship here, what defines salvaging the season. And I just don't know if there's enough points on this table for them to get back into that top 10. I really don't
No,
think so.
they're 10 points off of 10th, which is they can make that up, but European ball, let's say 7th place, they're 13 points off. And like the way everybody's playing this year, like you're not making that up. So that's what I like.
No. No, I think the
I
top half
don't
of this
know.
table is too good. I think the top half of this table is too good.
The
And
other thing that goes with this, like from a financial perspective, I don't know if they're able to keep everybody come the summer. Like if you finish,
no.
like they
No
probably
way.
built this team assuming they have European ball relatively
100%.
consistently. Yeah.
100%. They just revamped the entire squad because they had funds and they thought they were going to be on the top of the table for years to come. They will not be able to afford the roster that they have now if they finish bottom of the 10. Now, the one thing that just popped into my mind is, do they pull a Crystal Palace and somehow, some way find themselves back in European ball, not from a finishing in the table perspective, but do they win the Conference League? Do they win the Coppa Italia? Maybe.
No.
You think about it.
No, they don't.
Maybe. Probably not, but maybe.
There's no way.
If Crystal Palace can do it, why can't Fiorentina?
No.
Look at Man
Fiorentina
U.
cannot.
Man U won the Europa League last year. They came in 17th in the Prem. Crazier things have been done, Vos.
Yeah, no.
Don't sleep.
I don't think it's happening. Vinoli's going to be focused on the league, focused on building a team. Yeah, this one's
Do you
at this point. Go ahead.
you think that they're giving him the go ahead to be like, this is now long term? What happens this season is kind of a wash? Or do you think that there's an expectation to get this team back into a 10th place? What do you make of that?
I don't know that's a good question. I don't know what the barometer is going to be for like keeping him next year kind of thing, right? Like,
Do we know what kind of contract he got?
I'm looking that up right now because I don't remember.
If it's anything short of
Because I know,
seasons,
so the Palladino one was 2 years.
yeah.
So
Which
that
makes
one,
sense.
like, we have a very clear idea of what they want to do. I'm trying to find this right now. Sorry, delaying, guys.
Sorry, Paisans. We need a producer in the background. If you like looking up stats on the go, let us know. We'll get you involved, and you can shoot us some ideas in the chat. But like I was saying,
I think it's a 1-year deal with an option for a second year. So what I'm assuming,
I'm assuming.
Sucks. Yeah, but this is the position he was in. He had been the first team coach for Torino, got fired. Like, why would you guarantee him anything more than that? And he's not in a position to really argue, you know? So I think it makes sense.
That to me means that they want to get something out of the season.
I don't think it's getting something. I think it's more. I think he's going to be judged more about how they're playing because I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's an eye test because I think it's going to be results as well. But in terms of like where you need to finish on the table, I think that's kind of irrelevant to a degree. but it's more like, are you starting to get results? Is the team starting to play well? Because like if they just rip for the rest of the year and they finish in like 12th, you keep him. So it's a weird one. Going to be very interesting.
I think we just hit the mark down today. If we started the season today, where they end up at the end of 38 match weeks, which I guess we'll have what
Yeah, the problem
30,
with that is like
28.
you're going to start slower. Like you're figuring out how to play. It's just a bad. It's always tough for this. It's gone so bad.
Who do they have coming up? Who do they have coming up? We got they just had the Battle of Bastards in Genoa.
And
They got a
nobody won.
2-week international break. They come back against Juventus and Spalletti. That's certainly not a fun game to play. Conference League, they don't have any reprieve until Verona, which is midway through December. They've got Juventus, Atalanta, Sassuolo
Well, here's the thing with
in
this
league
team,
play.
and this is why this is so sad. Like this is sad that they're here. They can beat all of these teams. They can beat Juve. They can beat Atalanta. They can beat Sass. They can beat Verona. They can beat Udinese. Like what you can go on and on. Their roster is good enough to beat literally everybody. It's a matter of like I don't even understand how it got to this point. I don't know how we're here.
No idea. No idea.
It's so I could probably manage this team better, and I'm a fucking idiot. Like, I don't know anything. And like, this is so unacceptable. And it's just sad. So I hope people.
It's wild.
If
It's
people
really
haven't
wild.
watched Fiorentina, I would start watching them now. Like buy low, sell high kind of thing. If you're looking to get in the league, start being a Fiorentina fan right now. You're going to be along for this ride. You're going to see literally some of the best players in the league, and they're going to get better. Like this is the time, even if you're not a Fiorentina fan, and like you're a fan of another team and you don't watch a lot of Fiorentina, start watching them. All of these guys are really good. You're going to see some future stars, current stars, a star in the making in the coach, I think. And it's going to be good at some point. Like this cannot continue. They are so good that this has to stop.
It has to stop. Now, I will put a disclaimer on that. Do not get too affectionately connected to any one player because a lot of these guys will be on the way out.
Moise Kean is out. He's going
to do not fall in love with Moise Kean. Certainly watch Moise Kean. There's some other players here that you can certainly follow. With that being said, Paisans, that is a wrap on our two-part State of the Union. Like we always say, the season doesn't really start until match week 10. We are now 2 weeks past it. It has been an incredible start to the season. So many storylines that we're following, as we always do. But please continue to follow, continue to like, comment, subscribe on all the socials: Instagram, X, YouTube, TikTok. We are firing on all cylinders here. Next week, Mott's will be back with Vos for a little bit of an international break check-in. I will see you guys in 2 weeks. But with that being said, you're listening to us on all your favorite streaming sites, Spotify and Apple Pods. And since I fucked it up last week, Vos, take us away.
Oh, I do want to issue a quick apology to the Paisans. We have been slacking a little bit, I will say, in the last 2 weeks. Everybody's been a little bit busy. But we're back. We're going to get this one out. We're going to get some more content out. We're going to be better. We apologize for that. But with that, guys, do not be a gagoots and Forza Calcio culture.